Since starting 5 years ago, last year to closing out the year at roughly 1.7 million.
What's the most difficult part about balancing being a business owner, dad, husband?
You don't prioritize your schedule, you schedule your priorities.
What are the most important roles or people or processes that allow that to happen?
Caring for people so much that they can't help but just care in response. It's fun when you're busy, but it's scary when you're not making any money.
Or what's even worse is when you are busy and still not making any money. What was probably the biggest hurdle to get past $1 million in revenue?
Honestly, $1 million wasn't that hard. It's getting past the $2 million mark.
Has there been a person that you've talked to that was like, gave you a huge unlock?
Jim Collins is on stage. He says, think about your business. I want you to write down the number one thing that matters to your business.
A final closing point.
There's a verse in the Bible. What good is it for a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul?
Hey guys, before we jump into today's episode, I wonder if you could do me a super quick favor. So most of the people that watch our videos are not actually subscribed to our YouTube channel. So if you could take 2 seconds, go down below, hit the like button, hit subscribe. It would mean the absolute world to me, to our team behind the scenes who put in an immense amount of effort to make these episodes what they are, and also to our guests who take a chunk out of their day to come on here, talk with me, and share their knowledge, stories, experience, and game with you guys in an effort to make you and your businesses more successful as well. Also, for those of you guys that are home service business owners and you're struggling with the marketing and lead generation department in your business, and you feel like that's something that's holding you back from growing to the levels that you want to, that is the problem that we solve at TradeOps Consulting. So we have a full suite of marketing services, everything from A to Z, whether it be website design, SEO, Google ads, Facebook ads, you name it, we do it. We also build automations and systems that help you guys make the most out of your marketing as well. At the moment, about 80% of our business comes from word of mouth referrals. That is business owners and contractors just like you telling their friends and other business owners about the great experience that they had with us. And so that is the reputation that we have spent 6 years building here doing marketing for the trades. If you guys need help with stuff like that, click the first link in the description below, book a call in with me. We'll take a look at your business, peek under the hood, see what's going on. If there's anything that we can do to help you guys fix it, we can lay out a path for what that would look like, taking our systems and putting them into your business. So if that's something you're interested in, book a call with the first link in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's get to it. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the TradeOps Radio podcast. Today, I am joined by Stephen Jobe. Stephen, go ahead, introduce yourself, man. Tell us a little bit more about who you are, what you do, and kind of your history in the plumbing world and sort of what brought you to this point where we're at today.
Yeah, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it. So I've been a plumber for 12 years. I started off working for a small drain cleaning company, and it wasn't necessarily the plumbing that I fell in love with. It was just more, being outside, being around people, fixing things with my hands, et cetera, et cetera. And then over the course of time, got pretty good at it, to the point where I started a plumbing company based in Tucson, Arizona. And we've been in business for right about 5 years. And when we first started, we kind of started everything off with the idea that like plumbing should go back, or the trades really should go back to doing things with integrity, with doing things the right way, and kind of getting outside the box of just all about sales and upsell, and which is, you need that for business, but taking the focus off of that. And so we really from the beginning tried to build kind of what we refer to now as a culture changing company. Changing the culture in the trades, and our biggest focus is on integrity and doing things the right way. Our mission statement is leadership in plumbing, integrity in everything, helping people, and generosity to all. And with those 4 points, you can kind of get an idea of what it kind of looks like, what our culture looks like. And so since starting 5 years ago, we've increased last year to closing out the year at roughly 1.7 million, 10 employees, and just honestly just trying to do really well, and not just in a financial sense, but like really trying to take care of our employees and our people well. So other than that, which is a lot, I'm a dad of 2 awesome kids, and a husband to an awesome wife, and I've got 2 dogs who won't stop barking in the background. But other than that, we're good to go.
Right on. Right on. What's the most difficult part about balancing all the things that you just mentioned? Being a business owner, dad, husband, taking care of your family, but also I would imagine you probably view your employees and the people of your business kind of like an extended family, where it's like you've got people that are relying on you and driving the business forward to feed their, people independence at home too. So it's like, how do you kind of manage and juggle all the responsibilities and sort of the different hats you have to wear to really show up in all those places the way you have to?
Yeah, man. Good question. Honestly, it comes down to there's actually a statement that I just recently heard that kind of puts voice to this. Brian Buffini, who is like a real estate mogul and he does like leadership talks and things. He basically said that, and I think this is actually Zig Ziglar originally, but he basically says that you don't prioritize your schedule, you schedule your priorities. And when you first start your business, that's really hard to do because it's like you're the only one doing it and you got to, get after it. But as we've grown, it's become a little easier to separate those things. Where I can take a hat off, put another hat on. That doesn't mean it's easy, but um, I've just simply used delegation, like bringing other people in who are much better at their jobs than I would be at their jobs, or they're better at my job than I was at my job, and then handing things off. So like at this point, the amount of involvement that I have in the actual plumbing work is basically zero. I mean, we're very, very close to the ground, Um, being able to delegate things and trust people, and then not correcting in a mean way, but correcting in a way that's honoring to them because they're literally taking up your job, like giving them the tools to be able to succeed in that, and then encouraging them to make it even better in their way, has been really helpful in that process. So I also think that, I know this is a long-winded answer, but yes, I also think that giving yourself and giving myself permission to show up on both ends. So like, basically bring it out into the open when I'm feeling guilty about leaving my family to go to work, and bring it out into the open when I feel guilty about going to work when I want to be with my family. You see what I'm saying? Um, Giving myself permission to just talk about those things, and also to not feel guilty about it. It's like, yeah, I got a lot of hats and I got to put them all on, and we got to move. So
If you think back a second to scaling up the business, where was the first place that you realized that you needed to like fire yourself? Like bringing on that first employee, what was one of the key roles that you were like, I know that someone's doing this better than me. Let me go find that person and bring them on board. Or like what was sort of your priorities as far as replacing yourself in different aspects of the business? What were some of the first ones that you decided to kind of,
well,
bring
the
some help on?
the the first place I replaced myself was bookkeeping. I did that on day one.
Mm.
um, that was
Easy
easy.
choice.
Yeah, that was easy because I didn't want to make a mistake. I mean, I don't want to get in trouble with the IRS or anything else. And I also don't want to go negative. So like, let's hire a bookkeeper, keep track, and we'll have those conversations. Um, that's the easy one. The one where it really hit the road. It's not the first employee or the second or the third or the fourth, because we had four employees before we brought on our dispatch. It was when I went to dispatch, because I had a system in place and I knew exactly where everybody was at, and I'm moving the whole board around and getting it all done. When I brought in somebody who was actually good at it, the entire team was like, "Oh my gosh, thank goodness that you're not doing it anymore." Although it worked, they weren't really sure what they were missing until it actually happened, as was I. I wasn't sure. By doing that, it then released me to now be the fifth technician, you know, and to really start rolling. And I didn't realize how much time I actually spent just burning fuel trying to get that job done until somebody else took it. And it's like they put jet fuel inside of the car that I was trying to drive with ethanol. Like, it didn't, it actually worked.
Hmm. Do you know
Yeah.
what they were doing differently that made that huge increase in productivity?
Focusing. um yeah, I mean, it's honestly that, like, they were able to, I'm over here trying to eat off of 6 to 8 plates. They're able to walk up and just take the one plate and focus on the food on their plate, right? um and because they happened to be someone who really liked the food on the plate, they devoured the food, right? Whereas I was kind of like, well, I have to do it. I have to eat the peas and the mashed potatoes and the carrots. So I guess I'll have to do it. But like, because they love doing that kind of work, and it's the seat they're supposed to be in on the bus, like, that's they just took it and ran with it and started really, really creating systems. And that moment was the moment that I believe that really started causing a lot of growth in our company because everything became systematized and it started working. And you know, yeah.
When it comes to developing the systems and stuff like that, what is kind of your process for developing and putting those together, and then also documenting it or putting it in some sort of, formal, like, crystallized version of like your thoughts so that someone else can come along, pick that up and, you know, perform the role like they're supposed to.
Yeah, that's really good. Well, I think first and foremost, like when we realize that we have an idea that could be beneficial, is we have a meeting with whoever needs to be in that meeting. So if it's like a service issue, okay, well, we're gonna go meet up with the service, at least the service leader. We call him a field supervisor. So we'll meet up with the field supervisor and say, hey, these are the ideas that we're having. What do you think? And and they can put their input into it. Once it goes past the idea phase and we have some agreement that it could be beneficial, next we're going to just put it in writing. Here's the plan. Here's how it works. Here's the caveats. Then we take it to the team and we say, okay, here's the plan we have, and here's how it works. Give me backfires. Where are you going to find that this is going to be an issue? Because we're basically just, before we even run the system, we're going to find all the holes first and close up all the holes, or at least have an answer for when that happens. And then after that, it just becomes dumping into software, making sure that the software lines up with what we're trying to do. And then, if it has to do with customer service, then we're going to line it up and add it to our client service list. So like, for example, one of the things that we added, one of the questions that we've been asking is, how can we do something that no other plumbing company in Tucson is doing on the customer service side, specifically to that? And one of the answers that came out of the process of what we just talked about was, what if we gave all of our clients a little bag of coffee, enough for 1 cup of coffee, and it's got like a cute little logo. To caveat that, I own a coffee company called Plumbers Crack Coffee. It's like,
Huh.
it's awesome. The logo's hilarious. It's plumberscrackcoffee.com. It's great. But as we said, well, what if we created like specific to Jobe Sons, like its own roast, its own brew, and we just put them in a little tiny bag, like literally has like 4 tablespoons of coffee beans in it, already ground, and then we just hand them out to every single customer at the very end. And it's kind of like a way, it's almost like the glass of champagne after the fancy dinner, after you've paid for your bill, right? It's just this little thing that at least people going, oh, that was cool. Like that was kind of a fun thing. People are never going to remember what you charged. They're never going to remember the service that you provided at their house. They're going to remember how much you cared for them, right? And so we've been kind of working that process in, and we're almost to the point of launch. Design's done and everything. We're just now waiting to say, okay, like, how does that process work at the very end? How are you going to make your approach? How are you going to say it? How are you going to smile? Like, there's a whole thing, and we're nuts about it. So
That's awesome. Yeah, I don't recall ever speaking to any other plumbing companies that give out like boutique, like their own brand of coffee at the end. So as far as doing something that no one else is able to do, I think you got that down. What is it like running the coffee side of things too? Is that like it's an afterthought, or it's like a just kind of a fun little like passion project, or is it like a serious, like you're trying to do the
well,
business too
yeah,
as well?
a bit of both. A bit of both. So it started off as I just really wanted to get this very specific coffee bean that you can only get commercially. So I started a little coffee company. And I was like, well, I'm just going to get the bean. That's all I want. I got declined for the bean, but I had a business built with all the branding and everything. So I was like, well, let's rock and roll this thing. So we leaned into it. It's not an afterthought necessarily, but it's more of just a really interesting way for me to do marketing. We typically will market it heavily in like Thanksgiving, Christmas time. We'll call local plumbing companies around town, as it's not Joe Sons calling, it's this Plumbers Crack Coffee company calling, and say, hey, this is Steve with Plumbers Crack Coffee, and we know you got to get your employees Christmas gifts. Would you be interested in like these these coffee beans? And yeah, we've had companies buy up, boxes and boxes and boxes at a time, because it's cute, it's fun. It's not something that, like, would I like for it to go, you know, massive? Sure. Like, who wouldn't want it? But I also know that I don't have the capacity, the logistical mind to keep up with that side of things. So right now, my brother and my sister-in-law are the ones who really heavily just run that stuff. So when it comes time for all that, they're the ones pushing it. They're the ones doing all that. I just more so facilitate the design work and, getting like the cool, cute ideas and stuff. And for Joven Sons, I run all that part. But um, now, outside of the coffee company, I do consulting work with other trades companies. And so that actually has been a big focus lately because you know, Joven Sons at this point runs on its own. I don't really have to be involved on a day to day. Like I can, yeah. I mean, sometimes I don't get a call from my team for 4 or 5 days straight, which is cool. But at the same point, like I've also realized like I can add a lot of value to some of these other guys who are like really trying to do good work. Um, and so I've been doing that and like wrote a book about leadership and like there's like a little soup that's brewing in a pot right now that we're getting ready to like, push it into full throttle. So
Cool. Right on. I have heard a lot of creative answers as far as how to offset your winter decline in revenue typically. And selling coffee to other plumbers is one that has never been discussed before. That's awesome, dude. I love
yeah,
that.
we start the process and we end the process.
Yeah.
So
Do you guys get customers outside of like other plumbing businesses, or is it more kind of just like it's an inside joke and the plumbers think it's hilarious, so they get it
do you
from
know
stat
do you know who
or
do you know who Ferguson Plumbing Supply is? No. So they're a nationwide supplier. And they may actually be worldwide, but for sure they're like the biggest plumbing supplier in America. And I just got permission to brand and cold call these 1,800 some odd locations for commercial coffee sales to them, which is pretty sweet, right? Like they do HVAC stuff and all that. And so it just happened as a quick conversation with one of the branch managers, and I got a good relationship going with them. And then she reached out to her upper, and they reached out to their upper, and they was like, "Oh yeah, this Plumbers Crack Coffee stuff looks great. Let's go ahead and give approval." And then so now we designed a bag specifically for them. It's all directed towards Ferguson Plumbing Supply. Um, and then when we call with the first purchase of a bag, we're going to provide a logo, and they're going to hang our logo up on their wall. Like it'd be cool. Like it's kind of fun. So
that's sick.
yes, there are other people who do call. We get regular orders in, but I don't fill out. I don't do the order fulfillment. That's all my brother and sister-in-law who carry that part.
Cool. That's really interesting, man. What would you say is the key player, or even if there's multiple of them, to like make sure that your phone doesn't ring? Because not a lot of people can say like my business can run itself for however many days and like I don't even get a phone call or a text. Like that is difficult to do. What are the most important roles or people or processes that allow that to happen?
Caring for people so much that they can't help but just care in response. Does that make sense? So, like in our business, we have. I wish I could show you. I actually don't have it here. We have a circle. Jim Collins, who he's a leadership writer. He has this idea of a flywheel, and essentially the idea is that you start with the most important thing for your business at the very top of the flywheel. For us, it's caring for people. That's part of our mission statement, right? Like right there in the back. Um, we put caring for people, and the idea is that you write it in a circle. So you say, if we care for people, then we can't help but, and then you answer the next one. And it's designed so that way, as you work your way around, you eventually come back to care for people. We can't help but care for people. And that idea has integrated itself all the way from the top to the bottom of our company, to the point that everybody in our company understands and knows that like if our goal is to care for people at the very bottom of what we do, then that means that when a coworker brings up that he needs his tire repaired, we bring it up as a team and we cover the tire repair. You know, um, even on from me, like leadership bleeds downwards always. So like for me, that means that being attentive to the leaders that are in our company, like like they express a need or they express a want, or you drop off coffee at their job site, or you call them and say, hey, we know that your grandpa just died. Here's some plane tickets. Go fly out and go see your grandma, whatever it is. caring about people, caring about your employees and the clients as well. Because if you keep it only internal, then it doesn't line up, and your own employees will be like, yeah, but you're different in two places. By caring for people all the way through and making that your goal, like the natural response to someone caring for you is to care back, right? So like if you told me you had an issue and you said, hey dude, I'm stressed out, I'm $500 short for rent, and I don't know what to do, then my response can be, hey, you know what? Well, here's 500 bucks plus an extra 200 because I know you need groceries. You are going to be so responsive to that, and it's not a manipulation move. It's just because if I'm naturally caring for you as a person, you can't help but just care back. And so we create this cycle of just people who not only do they care about each other, which is really what makes up the business, but they care about the business as a whole, because that's the core thing. That's the very center of it. All of it's like, if we're standing here, we care for people. Jobe Sons Plumbing cares for people. So what am I doing here to make that different? And the guys and the gals who work for us, like, they've gotten behind that and rallied behind it. And um, we've given them the authority to make those decisions. So like if they run into a client who simply can't afford it, um, they have the authority to give it away for free. Simply because, like, it affects change not only for the person, but the person who's giving that away, it sh- it has a lasting effect on them. And so I don't know, maybe we could strip it all down to just trust with your team, and they enjoy their work, and so they're going to do a good job. But we cast vision and mission. Like I said, that mission is leadership and plumbing, integrity and everything, helping people, and generosity to all. It's really straightforward. And that, and also making sure that everybody understands what their role actually is. You know what I'm saying? So like when your phone rings in the middle of a podcast, like you can make sure to, I'm just messing with you.
Yeah, that was
Um,
actually a spam call.
was it? Dang it. um, you should have put him on the podcast. That'd been fun. Um, but yeah, I mean, like, making sure everybody has their role clarity. Like your dispatch manager, your field supervisor, your dispatch team, all of the technicians, any apprentices, even me, everybody needs to know, what am I responsible for, and how am I going to properly get that done? What does it actually look like for me to win in my position? Lay it out clearly, and then that way, when they are winning, it's like, hey dude, great job, you're doing great. And if they're not winning, you say, hey, just want to bring this to your attention, you're missing point one and two, let's make some adjustments and keep on moving. It works, you know.
Yeah, I can see how the mission statement and like the values, if that's not embedded all the way from top to bottom as far as leadership to, the other people that are sort of under them in the, I don't want to say food chain. It's not the right way to, but like the structural order of the
Leadership
business, right?
structure, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. Perfect. I can see how if everyone's aligned on the missions and values, that kind of just works more seamlessly. But as far as like operationally, or like, obviously you are the visionary, the director of the orchestra, so to speak. Who else have you put in place where it's like other people within the company might answer or report to them, to where they are getting back to you? And it's like creating that multiple levels of not only authority, not in the sense of like control other people and micromanage everything, but more so in the sense of like, this person knows what to do and can hold other people accountable to that as well, and has the ability to make decisions on your behalf. How many like layers of that up does something have to go through to like turn into a phone call for you?
Yeah. So right now, because we're 10 strong, right? So right now it's just two other people. So it's a triangle. We have a leadership triangle. And basically it's me, and then there's field supervisor, and then there's dispatch manager. And so if you just draw it down from me, like, we've got office on one side, and you have all the field work on the other side. So the hands-on operations, and then the kind of digital customer service side, right? So essentially, you just funnel it up. If you think about like a big A-frame, office side runs through dispatch manager, and if she can't answer it, they both have the authority to make decisions. They've got certain not to exceed numbers if they need to make purchases or make things happen. They have the authority to do those things within their own wisdom. Um, the goal here is not that I am turning around and going, "Oh, I don't even want to deal with this. I'm just going to walk away." That's stupid, right? Like you you can't just like throw it all in the trash and then hope that it's going to go. Like you have to keep your finger on the pulse, but also like letting your leaders, and this is one thing that we've done, is letting my leaders make mistakes as they lead, and like if they have what's the word, if they have a good character as a person, if they show integrity in their character, then I don't really have to worry about that part so much. Really, what then I have to work on is just doing subtle adjustments in their leadership, listening to conversations, hearing feedback. Hey, this is what's going on over here. And then my job then becomes more of a leadership coach to allow them to coach their teams properly while also, kind of reaching across and caring for that team as well. Because at our size, for me to completely disappear and have them just run everything, it can create resentment in a team that small because they're like, well, Mr. Job's at the top and he doesn't do anything, And in reality, like I do. So my job at that point would be then to communicate, like we over communicate core values, we over communicate vision, we over communicate. Hey, thank you for working so hard. I really appreciate you. Hey, good job on this Google review. Just like kind of keeping up with conversations and just, some camaraderie and hosting some things like that. Um, so like I've given them names are Dan and Stacy. I've given them the authority to make some of those decisions and also to make some of those mistakes because leadership's not perfect. And so I think like giving them the ability to pull the trigger. And then if we have to clean up a mess afterwards, it's usually not a big one, but if we have to clean up a little bit on the back end, then I'll step in and I'm going to support them as the leader, right? Like, hey, I know you made that decision. I'm going to stand up with you in this decision, and then let's try it this way next time. And maybe I'm just lucky, but I think I think there's probably something to that.
Yeah, it's a good take. And honestly, I think that if you work through that and play it out in your head, it's like, okay, most guys want the phone to stop ringing, which it sounds like you have, and you've got that working. So it's like, okay, what you just said makes a lot of sense, where it's like, okay, if you take someone, put them in a leadership position, and then don't give them the freedom to fail, they're going to be they're going to actively work to try to avoid that failure, which means that they're going to be calling you when they are uncertain because they haven't built the muscle of being okay with taking an action. It wasn't the right thing. We failed. Okay, boo-hoo. But as a company, what we do in that situation is we get it together, pick up the pieces, say, hey, maybe next time in the future we do it like this. And then we move on. And that person, one, actually learns what to do again in that situation the right way. Two, they now have the mental frame or like the understanding that when I take an action, I can do so with confidence because my team has my back, even if it's not the right thing. Like it's not the end of the world. It's not my job on the line. Like failure, being afraid of failure is worse than being afraid of, or you want them to not be afraid of the failure and not be afraid of being able to take action on their own. That's why you hired them, right? So in order to build up that level of like autonomy for them, they kind of need to have, like you said, the freedom to take action, make choices on their own, right or wrong, and then just kind of correct as those things happen. I think a lot of people, like, they want a person in that role, but then also don't want them to make mistakes, don't want them to, mess shit up or whatever. And it's like, well, this is a training process, dude. And you got to like literally download everything that's in your brain into theirs as far as how we make decisions, what we do in this situation. That stuff takes time. It's not going to be an instant, hire this person and the phone stops ringing. You got to like work with them a bit for that, I would imagine. So,
Well, and I also think too, like, the guys who say that, maybe they're listening to this or whatever. The guys who say that, I usually find that I say this carefully because it probably is going to sound really harsh, but they probably struggle with pride, right? Like they're not willing to remember, or maybe they do remember. It's like, well, I got through that and I was fine. Okay, but you made mistakes, dude. Like We've all made mistakes as leaders. And you can't stand as a leader and then go, well, I want you to not make any mistakes. Then you're not hiring a leader. You're just wanting somebody who's just going to do exactly what you want. That's an admin, you know. Like if you want a leader, you got to let them get punched in the face a couple times, like, and teach them how to duck and dodge and go. And anyway, you understand.
Yeah, and that person's still going to call you because they're thinking through you anyway. So it doesn't really solve the problem. I think you nailed it. Pride. And then also the biggest thing that I've seen is like not trusting that there are people that can do a job as good, if not better than you.
Yeah, there always is.
You know? And it's hard to kind of unwire your brain from that. And honestly, like I do these podcasts a lot. I do sales and consulting stuff every single day. Like that is my job. I speak to home service business owners all the fucking time. And it's always like that same issue of like the difference between getting above the chuck in the truck level is like getting out of the way and letting people do their job. And the guys that have been stuck at that level for a long time, it's almost like a survival mechanism where they had to do everything themselves for so long that they think they might actually be the best fit to do everything, even though they're like burning the candle on both ends and it's like everything's a shit show. But at the end of the day, it's like if you're willing to get out of your own way, let someone do their job, and then focus on other stuff that actually matters, like that's what it's going to take. And you have to do that for literally almost every single role within the business if you want to truly like have a business that works for you, not you working in the business, which everyone says they want. That's like the big dream that gets sold is like work on your business, not in your business. But it's like most people have no idea the decision making or the amount of different skills that you have to learn at different levels to like actually unlock that.
Well, and I think also too, like what you had just made mention is like, you got the chuck in the truck guy. Um, I don't think that many. I honestly don't think that many trades guys actually understand numbers, actually understand the difference between markup and margin. Like that is a huge thing that I see. I've slowly started to kind of do the consulting thing because I just really love people and I like sitting down with them. So it started off as like just like this little like, hey, I'll meet up with you and talk to you, and then it slowly became this little I wouldn't say a business necessarily, but it's like a little thing that I like to do. I make zero money at it at the moment, but it's not a huge deal. But the number one thing that I've seen is like one of the first questions I ask is, hey, what's your major pain point? Like you're obviously sitting down, you've reached out to me for a reason. What's going on? And it's like, well, I just feel like, I'm working all week long and I get to the end of my week and I got like no money. And I'm like, I don't know where it went. And so my next question is, okay, what are your operational costs? What does it actually cost for you to be in business every month? Oh, I don't know. Okay. Now we can work, let's start there, and I think maybe that's plays into what you're talking about is like, and it has to do with pride. Like, oh, I'm the only one who can do this. Do you fully understand your business though? Like if you look at your business, are you actually making enough to hire somebody? Are you even making enough to pay yourself? Or is that why you're working so hard? Because you feel like you're drowning all the time. Let's look at that. Let's actually function and see what it looks like. And I think most guys are, when we actually run the numbers, there's always that, oh crap moment, and they're like, I'm only bringing in 3% margins. You're only bringing in 3% margins. So, yeah, man, I think it's, while it is popular in the trades right now that you like what you're talking about, like work in your business or work on your business, not in your business. Like, I think that a lot of people are just scared to actually look at the reality of their business because it's fun when you're busy, but it's scary when you're not making any money.
Yeah. Or what's even worse is when you are busy and still not making any money.
Right. Yeah.
There's a lot of people working 70-hour weeks for free, dude. And it kills me because all you have to do is, like you said, ask the question, like, dude, what's your margin? What are you actually taking home at the end of the day? Or like basic job costing stuff. And it's like, you know, that's not a good answer, dude. That's tough
Yeah.
as a business
Is
owner.
never a good answer.
Yeah, no, it's not. And I
I've
mean,
got a, oh, sorry to interrupt. I was going to say, I've got a buddy, his name is Westy. He does, his company name is Trademark Solutions, I think is what it is. And, Anyway, he's actually my personal consultant. So he's the guy that I actually consult with because the guy's a wizard. And his term is, he always goes, whenever I'm bringing up something, he goes, "What's your lever? What's the lever you need to pull?" And then he'll break it down. He's like, "These are the levers you have available to you. Pull a lever. Just pull one." And that's been a big game changer for me, because when I'm sitting there stuck, I'm like, "What do I do now?" It's like, his voice pops in the back of my head, "Pull your levers." Like, okay, let me go find my lever, find out where it's at.
Yeah.
It's been great. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is the big difference between being stuck in like working in the business, just basically a cog in your own machine, to being able to see the full board. Like, you can't be the quarterback and still be on the field playing. Dude, you need to be the coach on the sideline, seeing the whole thing and like telling the quarterback the play to run for the next, whatever, to get to the yardage you want. And what your friend was telling you about, like, that's like, I'm a sales and marketing guy. So that's how I see business. Is it's a series of inputs and outputs all chained together. And for me, the product that's in the middle of all of that, whether it's plumbing or marketing or coffee, doesn't matter, right? Business is literally just like, you've got marketing and like customer acquisition, you've got the pricing, all the overhead, all the margin, all the other stuff baked into it, the labor, and then you've got the customer success and the fulfillment, and then you've got like the administrative stuff kind of on the back end, the management, the people, all of that stuff. And it's like, if we have the right numbers broken into little categories, those are the levers, right? So it's like, if our marketing's fucking up, or we're spending too much, or our cost per lead is super high, it's like, well, let's look at all the individual things and figure out which lever we need to pull to make those numbers move a little bit. And once we figure that out, it's like, oh, okay, that was identify and diagnose the problem. The solution is pull this lever, this number goes up or down. And we just adjust those little tiny things throughout the whole series of the chain. And eventually we get to a point where it's like, we put money in and the right amount of money that we want comes out on the other side. And all
Right.
we have to do
Exactly.
is just get the right things to line up in order to like create a pipeline for that money to move through. A lot of people, if you're still in the truck answering calls and, underneath someone's, basement, cutting things open, like, it's hard to think about your business like that when you're so like in the weeds of it. And I think that's the part where most guys just don't think about it like that. They're like, yeah, dude, I'm a plumber. It's like, no, 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 no. You're a business owner, dude. And let me show you all the pieces of what business is. Once you start to see it as a numbers game, it totally changes everything. It gives you a clear, like, way to diagnose the problems that you actually have.
Yeah, I think also too, like, one thing I've encouraged a couple of these guys that I've met up with, is like, you have to decide if you're going to let the horse run or not. You know, like, if you want it to grow, let the horse go and get after it. But if you know in your mind, hey, 10 years from now, I don't want to have employees. I just want to be by myself and I want to have a really solid thing working. Then let's optimize the heck out of what you're doing so that way you're not losing your mind. you know, and make it worth it. If you're going to work that hard, let's make it so you are the wealthiest man on your street, or whatever, that you spend the most time with your family. Um, and I've had a couple of the guys be like, they sit back and go, I don't want 10 employees. I just want to work by myself and do it really well. It's like, okay, great. We can systematize that all day long. Let's do that. And then we set up, here's how you do your funds, here's how you do your invoicing, here's how you do everything. And that's been, so for some of the guys, that's been just the key. They just wanted permission to stay small. You know what I mean?
Which is fine.
Which is fine.
Yeah.
Just what is the best route for you, and just make it worth your while. Like, no, I could fully tell you that not every person is meant to be a business owner. Not every person is meant to own a company that's growing. Some of them just need to be a plumber for themselves, have a little business, do a great work, and go home at the end of the day. And you have to put boundaries in place to make that happen. And I think the problem is a lot of guys don't have the confidence or the knowledge about their business to be able to draw those lines properly. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think what you said there is a big unlock for a lot of people. And I mean, when we're doing marketing or consulting or whatever, the first question I usually ask is like, okay, where are you at now and where do you want to be at? Like, what is the goal? And how we go from A to Z to get to your destination could be totally different as far as the things, the processes, whatever. Like, if you want to build a mega yacht or you want to build a sailboat, doesn't make shit a difference to me. If that's what you want, that's what you want. But I'm not going to give you a blueprint for the yacht if you want the sailboat. You know what I mean? Like, how we go about building those two different things, totally different. So it's like, just be real about who you are, what you want, what you're trying to get out of it. If the goal is, okay, I want to build a $10 million company and sell it to some private equity firm. Okay, great. You can do that. Or it's like, hey, dude, I just want like a local mom and pop shop business that pays my bills, gives me a little bit of freedom and like, support the community, all that. It's like, dude, okay, great. Awesome. That's possible too. Here's how we would do that. Boom. And, it's conflicting sometimes when you've got people that maybe say or feel like they have to do the big thing, but really just like, dude, if this thing spits out a six-figure salary for me and I get to do great work and support some people and like, have a dope business, like great. It's like, okay, well, we can do that. Just, that's all right. We're going to build towards whichever you want, but how you go and, go about getting there is two totally different paths. So I think that there's too many people that are like, oh, I need to build this huge fucking thing. And it's like, okay, if that's what you want, great. It's possible. But there's also a lot of the smaller guys that, like you said, giving them permission to just stay where they're at. It's like, okay, that's cool too. You know?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And also like the difference between running a 4-man company to a 10-man company to a 20-man company, like this guy Westy I'm telling you about, he was his most previous gig was, dude, he was like, I think it was like 53 or 63 employee plumbing company and just running that hog solid. you know, like you're totally different leaders, dude. Like it's an entirely different playing field at that level. Your processes are different, your conversations are different, your meetings are different. The way you carry yourself into a room is different because you know what I mean? Like it's just interesting. So anyway,
Yeah. What was probably the biggest hurdle to get past $1 million in revenue, do you think?
honestly, a million wasn't that hard. It's getting past the $2 million mark that's been difficult. We in order of years, it went 261, 550, hold on. Then it was a million and some change, and then last year was like 1.7. To hit the 1.7 was a lot of work. The first million comes quick, and then you're like, holy crap, we have a lot of room to go. So like right now, I think we may have just crossed a million at the end of May. And it, like, you think, okay, like we increased our pricing and whatever, and it all should work out. I don't know what it is about that million to $2 million gap, dude, but it is like two football fields long. you just gotta you gotta get after it. And I think also the processes are it's different. I think d- for some reason 0 to 1 million is a smaller number than 1 million to 2 million, and we know mathematically it's not, but there's something about it, like I just bridging that gap. Um, and we haven't really quite figured that out. But I would say the hardest hurdle was just getting comfortable with hiring people. You can't hit 1 million by yourself, and if you are, then you apparently are in the perfect market who wants to pay you an enormous amount of money to do very little work. Um, you know, but it is also exponential. So what with one person, me by myself, I pulled 261. Then with two people, or actually three people at that time, we pulled 550, and then with four people we broke 1 million. And so you're like, okay, so it actually multiplies. The more people you have, it gets exponential, it goes faster. And so now we've got, with the five active trucks, with me playing sometimes the role of a sixth, we have the space for a sixth. So probably in September, maybe like end of August, we'll hire somebody to fill that sixth role. It becomes easier and easier to hit that number. The main thing that I'm more concerned about, though, is what margin are we hitting out of the millions, right? Because I don't care if you're making, you know, massive $15 million. If your margins are nothing, what in the world are you doing all that work for? And I can speak to that out of just flat out experience. Last year, there was a lot of lessons I had to learn about pricing and figuring out how to do it properly. And we got to October, we had brought in 1.2 million by that point, and my profit for the year, dude, my profit for the year at that point was $20,000. That will make your stomach hit your feet fast, right? And I was just, I couldn't figure it out. I ran the number. I would stay up for hours and hours and hours every single night and run the same spreadsheet and I'd run the numbers over again and yada yada yada. And Wes, he bless his heart, like really sat with me as we walked through that process and he caught it. And he had told me several times, I just don't think I really like computed it properly. And one night, I was at the end of my rope, dude. I was like, I'm done. I'm gonna shut this whole thing down. I don't know why I'm even doing this. I can't stand it. We're $60,000 in debt, and on top of cars and the trucks and all that as well. And I look up something like pricing calculator off of a whim, and I get a link to a Facebook link to a guy who goes by the name of like Millionaire Plumber or something like that. He's like another consultancy, whatever. And most of the time in a website, and I think you'll understand this, you're like, hey, get our calculator, and you have to give them your information to get the calculator emailed over. He just had a downloadable PDF right on his website, and I was like, okay, let's try that. So I jump in and I start putting my numbers in, and in that sheet, it started to explain markup and margins and all this other stuff that I like. Again, I think in the back of my mind I knew, but I never grabbed it properly. I threw my numbers into this calculator, and the number it spat back made me want to throw up. I mean, seriously, like we went from at the time we were charging 200, what was it, 225 an hour. My actual cost of business was 217 an hour per tech per labor hour, because I hadn't calculated the amount of I had overestimated the amount of billable hours my guys could actually operate in. I'm giving them like 35 hours of billable time. There's no freaking way you're charging 35 hours a week, right? So I put the number in and it spits back out 345 an hour. And I was like, no, not only are we doomed, but I'm going to lose all my clientele. And the next morning I called Wesley and I said, dude, I don't know what to do. And he goes, you could charge a heck of a lot more than 345 an hour. He's like, you just got to believe that you can. And so he ran the numbers. He's like, you could lose like what, 20 to 30% of the amount of calls that you do, and you would still make more money at your higher price. And so we adjusted in one day. I flipped all the prices over, moved everything in that direction, told the entire team, all your calculators are updated, use the new pricing and go. And here's why. Obviously told them why. And between the time of like late November to early December, we turned our profit from 20,000 all the way to about 135,000 in that short span of time, just simply because we adjusted our prices, also paid off all the debt, all that stuff. So then stepping into this year, we've got this new understanding about how it actually works. The team understands how it works because I'm very, very open about those kinds of things with them. So they step into conversations and say, okay, what's the margins on that? you know, they're like little business owners. It's awesome. They start, they're asking questions. Well, can we give it to them at this price? Because I know my break even number is 257 and some change. I don't think we can actually do it for that price, and it allows them to be able to, they're making these business decisions, and they'll call me and say, hey, I got the job, but I had to give it at 22% rather than 25. I just want to make you aware. Cool, not a problem at all. Thanks for doing your job. And that's game changer material, dude. Game changer. So it's not just a theory. It actually works when you put it into practice.
100%. Yeah, I've seen that in a lot of conversations too, where it's the first 3 years you can pretty much double every single time. But then again, the 1 million to 2 million is like, dude, you're doubling, but you have to add another million in revenue. Like you doubled 3 times to get to the first one. To expect that to happen again is like, that's a huge, like you've in the hockey stick curve, you made it to like the part where it starts to go straight up, which means that the amount of effort that it's going to take to go from 1 million to 2 is like way more. So yeah, it's like you can grow really fast and then you hit that one little like getting over the hump part. And it's like, dude, everything was going so good. We were growing like crazy. What happened? It's like, dude, you went from 0 to $1 million. Now you need to add another million to double again. You need to do your whole business over again in order to add that. Like, it's a great milestone, but like, first of all, pat on the back. Like, you're doing great, dude. You're fine. But the amount of effort that it took for you to go from 0 to 1, like it could take that again to go from 1 to 2. So just
Yeah.
being aware of that.
That's super good.
Make $1 million and take home 100K, and it's also easy to make $2 million and take home 100K.
Okay.
If you don't know what you're doing. So yeah, heard that before. Has there been a other like tool or resource or person that you've talked to that was like gave you a huge unlock that was like, damn, like I can't believe I was doing it like this whole time, and then this thing happened, or I talked to this person and it was like we changed everything overnight because that was exactly what was going on. Excuse me.
Yeah, a buddy of mine, his name is John. He was a CFO for a very, very large, well-known landscaping company. I'm not going to name drop him here, but the guy gets numbers. He lives, breathes Excel spreadsheets, and he's also just a really great human being. And when we first started having the issues of like coming up short with cash flow and all that stuff, I realized for the first time ever in business, I was not going to have enough money for payroll. And so I called him like the day before. I was like, dude, I don't even know who to call on this. I need help, And he's like, I got you, man. Come on, come on over. And we ran all of our numbers and he just started pointing out stuff. Really simple things, like just things to watch for and like how to cost properly. So if he was responsible for the first increase to get us to that first initial 225 phrase. And also I think he probably would have pushed us to the higher number originally, but I also hadn't properly calculated costs in the back end. So I was giving him improper information, So there's that. The other one was I was at you ever heard of Entree Leadership Summit? It's by Ramsey International or Ramsey Enterprises, whatever they call himself. Dave Ramsey, who is like a, no debt guy. He, they do this conference called the Entree Leadership Summit. It's all about leadership. It's fantastic. It's a wonderful conference to go to. The first time I'd ever been able to afford it with payment plans and on a credit card, so probably not even afford it, but I pulled the trigger. I went and I'm sitting in this thing, and the thing I told you about, the flywheel from Jim Collins. Jim Collins is on stage and he's talking. I'm sitting next to my buddy Jeremy, who's a phenomenal human being, and he gets business, really well. So we're sitting there jibber jabbing or whatever. And Jim says this comment about this flywheel thing. I look down at the sheet and he begins to explain it. And dude, I'm telling you, it's like my ears start ringing. I'm sitting in this room and all of a sudden I have all of this background of what's been going on with our business. We're losing money. We're 60,000 some odd dollars in debt, whatever. And I'm sitting there like, and I'm staring at this little circle because I had honestly forgotten why I even started in business. I forgot. I couldn't figure out, like, not only have I forgotten why, but everything behind me is burning. I'm like, okay, so I don't even understand why I'm standing here. Either I quit or I keep on moving. So I write, he says, I want you to think about your business. I want you to write down the number one thing that matters to your business. We care for people, right? I was like, that seems noble. And I think that's right. We care for people. And then it was just like, it was like a bomb goes off, dude. Like everything, my brain is like, that's it. That's, and it added so much fuel to the fire. And that's that moment. I had written out the entire flywheel in a matter of like 45 seconds because it all just starts unloading. And I started writing the book. Was it that night? Which is, the book is going to be released in August. It's called Burning Coal's Business, whatever. It's awesome. Not whatever. It's been hard work. I'm proud of it. But but that moment, dude, it was like everything in one moment from that simple little flywheel thing just rolled into position. It was like all of a sudden it just made sense. It's like, okay, why? Like, I'm not going to work so hard to save this thing if I don't even understand why I'm doing it. Right. Like, I have to know where we're even going in order for the team to get behind where we're going, in order for us to actually fix this thing. Because if I don't understand why, then we're not going to care. And we're just going to let the thing burn down to the ground and we'll do whatever. So figuring out the why, then making the pricing adjustments. Like, I have the why and I have the how. right? And now we're operating in the what, you know, so that I can forecast where we're going to go and how we're going to do it. Like it all works together. And that moment for me was just absolutely breathtaking, you know, and I probably looked crazy. In the book, I told that story exactly. And, uh, it's actually written out a little bit better than how I describe it verbally, but I remember looking over at Jeremy and I just started freaking out like, "I got it." Like, we're in the middle of this conference, there's like 3,000 plus people, and I was like, "Dude, I got it." And he's like, "What are you talking about right now?" Yeah. So, anyway, it was a huge moment, man. It brought so much clarity and so much vision and, allowed like, I made all of our core values, the mission statement, all of this stuff came out of that exact moment because I finally had the why. I had the vision for what it actually meant,
Yeah.
you know? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the why is basically everything. Like human beings, we hate not knowing the reason why something's happening. I mean, not to get all like philosophical or religious or whatever, but it's like, bro, when people didn't know why there was thunder and lightning in the sky, they made up like stories and like, big fantastical, like, you know, just creation myths is what they're called, where it's like the story of why there's lightning and thunder in the sky, and it's like there's gods battling and all this other shit, and it's like, dude, human beings hate not knowing why. We
Yeah.
hate it. So if you're
Yeah.
running a business and you don't know why you're doing it, you probably hate that too. So even just having a reason of like, I'm getting out of bed today to run this business that's kind of, you know, on fire right now, and I'm doing it because this. And just even having that little reason why, it makes it a little easier to, eat the frog that day, so to speak. So
Yeah.
yeah, the
Well,
mission statement's huge. And I think that people maybe don't think that that applies to like the trades or whatever. It's like, oh, you're just plumbing. It's like, no, Apple is like, oh, think different or whatever their big thing is. Like people understand these concepts of like branding and marketing and like, vision and, all these core values. People see that as like the corporate, like techie, like, like the bureaucratic kind of like big business sort of thing. It seems a little woo-ha, whatever, for the guy that's like doing blue collar work. But it's like, no, dude, some of that stuff actually does, apply and can be valuable and helpful for you too. So
yeah. Well, and it shifts too. It changed. For me, it changed. Like if you're a one man op just trying to make a good living and you only want to stay that way, you still have core values inside of you. And you have core values. Like they're built into who you are. And you still need a mission statement or something that tells you as a business how to operate, you know? And you can, yeah, sure, you can keep it all in your head. That's fine. I don't care if you want to keep it on your head, but it helps you to write it down so you can stay on target, you know? Um, I think, like you said, it's not even that it's only for big corporates. I just think that most people don't really, they always think that they're too small to apply the principle, you know? It wasn't until we had, at the time, I think we had 8 employees that I kind of went, I think that it's probably a good idea for me to put some of this stuff into place. And that was only after I realized what my why was. If I had just figured, I had a why when I first started, and it was simply, I just want to provide a good life for my family. And my core values were all internal, and it was all, you're going to do it right, and you're going to do it with integrity, and you're going to take care of people. But how do you translate that to a team? Even when I had, two, 3 employees, there were small moments, not a ton, but there were some small moments where I would get pushback. Like for example, one time we did a sewer line repair. While we're doing the repair, you're not supposed to put rocks next to pipe. It's duh. But for some reason, I was in a rush and I was just like, whatever, dude. Chuck the rock in. It rolls up against the pipe. It's a big rock too. Backfill this thing is 5.5 feet deep. I just backfilled it. Go home. Great day. The guy pays. There's a couple $1,000s. Send my employee home. It's just one employee at the time. And I'm laying there, and all of a sudden my brain turns on. Dude, you got integrity on the back of your shirt, and you threw a rock down in that hole, right? Everything in me wakes up, and so the employee comes in, and I said, okay, we have two choices. Either you can go and do a clean out install, and I'll go dig it up, or you can go dig it up, and I'll go do the clean out install. Like we had two big jobs, really one big job, but we had to now divert. And I remember just this feeling of like, he goes, "Why would we do that?" I was like, "Because it's the right thing to do." Like, yeah, it's really simple in nature, but like we can't just leave it. Like, and that was the core value coming out. That was what we call integrity first now. It was like, you're gonna stand by your word in your work. You're gonna do it the right way the first time. And if you don't, then you're not gonna do it at all. And and so he got on board, he fought, but he got on board and we went and we redug the entire hole 5.5 feet down for it was actually two big rocks, like that big. And we pulled both of them out, took our picture of them outside the hole, backfilled the whole thing, re-landscaped it all, and then took the rocks with us. So, so we knew for sure they were with us.
Never going to be a problem again.
Exactly, exactly. They're not going to get up and walk into the hole. And so, you know, there's no way for me to process that entire thing into a larger team. Obviously, he got it because he's the one guy, he experienced it. But for me to transfer it to the entire team requires that not only do we write it down, we post it in public spaces for all the guys to see, and I hammer that sucker home all the time because it's the expectation that's been set. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, there's three scenarios that could come off of the back of that situation, right? One is nothing ever happens, the homeowner never knows, and it's never a problem again. And you just have to deal with knowing that you left two rocks in the hole, and you can think about it for the rest of time, and it never really becomes an issue, but you're still like, damn, I did that. The second scenario is it becomes a problem. The pipe gets fucked up. Something happens and the homeowner calls you and is pissed and is like, "Hey, we just did this thing. Now it's spraying water everywhere. Whatever, this thing's broken. It's not working." So now you have to go back with your tail between your legs and be like, "We fucked up," and do it, and the customer's pissed. Third scenario is we do it on our own accord, on our own integrity. We go back, say, "Hey, we made a mistake. We're going to dig this up. We don't want it to be an issue." Now you've gained trust with the customer who's like, "Damn, you guys didn't even have to do that. I respect you more for coming back and just fixing it, making it right before it became a problem." That customer, even though you messed something up on the job, is going to speak positively about you to other people. Like, yeah, they made it right by, whatever means they had to. They came back. They didn't have to. I didn't even know it was there. They just did it on their own. Like, all in each of those scenarios, like, you win the most when you just like do the right thing anyway. And, even if you make a mistake, fixing it, making it right, the customer is still having a good experience. So now you just like, you flipped a oopsie into a happy customer. And it's like, you can only do that when you match it with integrity, doing the right thing, caring about the end customer, all those things. So
yep,
that makes sense.
it's awesome. Yeah,
It's
man.
the right thing to do for sure. Where do you guys get most of your customers from right now?
You talking about streams of leads, or are you talking about okay? Um, yeah, mostly actually referrals. Just mouth to mouth. We get the last time I checked, I want to say it's like 84% of our leads are actually just mouth to mouth referral. Um, yeah, it's been such a huge blessing, and we book like 100 calls a week on average. So it's a lot of people. I mean, we're getting a lot of new leads. Of course, people find us on Google, but the office tracks it every time. That's one of the questions. And when you have a new lead, it's, how'd you hear about us? Loads and loads and loads of referrals. Google's always number two. I mean, it's the biggest search engine in the world. Chat GPT has been coming into play. So we've been what is it called? Is it GSO? I think that's what it's called.
AEO,
GP,
something like that.
something like that. It's one of those. It's a weird one.
Yeah, there's a
And
bunch of
so
names for it, but
so like that, we've been optimizing for that. So chat's been starting to find us. We have Reddit has been one for us. I don't even understand that one. People are like, yeah, I looked on Reddit, like Tucson Plumbers, and you guys are named all over the place. It's great. I'm like, I didn't even think about Reddit as a possible, like a viable option. So mainly word of mouth, Google. We have, let me caveat that with, we have actually 3 locations. They're all in Tucson. Tucson's not a huge city. It's about 1 million people plus. One's by the University of Arizona. One is southeast corner, and the other one's northwest corner. And so basically, we optimized the first one up to this is what 500 5-star Google reviews, and then we moved it to the northwest, That one just hit 200 5 stars. And then we just opened Southeast. It's all just Google verified locations. The whole point is I could either pay Google $1,000 a month plus to put me in the location, or I could just go pay somebody for a sublease, 350 bucks, 400 bucks, put it in there and then just do it the slow way and build it. And then we gain real traction. So
100%.
yeah, so that's that. It's been a huge help. We did just start paying for local ads, like Google local ads.
Yep.
And that was the only reason we opened the door to that, is simply because the summer months, which is weird for us in Tucson, it's weird. Summer months are always slower, winter months are crazy busy. And so because we lose all of our university students and all of our snowbirds leave. So we lose like a huge amount of people in like a small span of time. Um, so because we were coming into that, I was like, okay, let's just chuck. We're only putting $1,000 a month in, or yeah, a month into it. So we just put $1,000 in, and it averages about 5 to 6 to 7 calls maybe, where people come through. But it takes care of the cost of the guys, and it gives us an opportunity to make another client, right? So I'll lose $1,000 if it means we make 1,000, but sure, I'll trade it.
Yeah.
Works out.
Why not? Running those three things in tandem works out pretty well too. If you guys have a good organic Google business profile listing, and then you're also showing up in the search section for like the websites, and you're running the local service ads, which is on the top. I mean, we very commonly will stack those things together, because it's like, okay, if you search plumbing near me, let's just say I blindly swirl my mouse around and just click on whichever one is the mouse is over, like throw a dart at the board. Obviously, customers are not doing that, but let's just say that that is the case, right? The more slots that you take up, the more real estate that you own on that first page, like unarguably increases the likelihood of a customer clicking on your business and going with you guys, simply because you're taking up all the space. There's less options to choose from, right? So when you run all those things together, it's like, is LSA going to be a big producer for you? Maybe, maybe not. But if you can occupy like that top third of the screen, and then you have the Google business profile, which is like the second or middle third, and then your website is the first one in the bottom third, it's like, dude, if anyone's looking at that and sees, oh, Jobe and Sons, like this is the guy, I guess. So it makes it a little bit easier to just be like the choice, the number one go-to. So whether they convert off of the ad, off of the Google business, or the website, it's like having all three there only increases the odds of all the other ones doing better too. So definitely a valid strategy for sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. Love it.
Yeah. Do you do any paid advertising as well, or no?
Yeah, that would be, maybe I named it wrong. It's sponsored ads. Like when you do like a Google sponsored thing, we do that. Yeah. So that's the $1,000 a month I'm talking about. And then we also do Facebook and Instagram. So we have like a whole thing. We'll make either funny videos or like value add videos, or like, hey, here's 3 things you need to do for summer, whatever. And then we'll just take that and we'll boost it. And that one's more about just brand recognition, getting people to recognize the video, the logo, my face, like just helping people to tie it together. Oh, there's that plumbing company again. What was that plumbing company again? Let me just go find them, you know, things like that. And on average, we put probably maybe like $500 a month into that. It's just more about we're just trying to get people to see it, so we'll do one ad here for like 50 and another ad here for 100, and just trying to get people to recognize the name. Especially in Tucson, we got some real big competitors, like big boys who are investment firms and stuff. So we're coming up against some of the really large and in charge companies, and so our marketing, we just try to make it really down to earth, but also high quality, so that when they, it's like, oh, this is a family company, this is real people in Tucson, but they're advertising at the level of this other company. Like, we'll use them instead. Works out.
A small suggestion: try taking your best performing organic posts and running them as ads, but through the Facebook Ads Manager. Boosting the post typically only shows it to more people that already follow you. So when you post something on Instagram or Facebook, typically what happens, like if you're using a reel, for example, like you guys said, you make like, funny videos or like educational stuff. If you post a video to your Instagram, what's going to happen is, let's say you have 100 followers. Instagram is going to show that video to 10 of those 100 followers. And based on the amount of people that engage with it, if it's a positive ratio of like more people liked it and engaged with it or spent more than X amount of seconds watching the clip, then it'll push it to the next 20 people out of those 100 followers. So it's like it slowly ramps your exposure to your own followers based off of the quality of the content or the engagement of the content, stuff like that. So when you boost a post, typically you're spending money just to go from, hey, when I post this video, show it to 10 out of my 100 followers, you boost it and it's like, okay, we're going to show it to all 100. So it can be great for local brand exposure, all the things you mentioned. But if you want to push more into a cold audience, people that have no clue that you exist or, have never heard of Senior Trucks, whatever, running it as an ad through Ads Manager, not just boosting the post on Instagram, is going to be the move. It's also cheaper.
That's awesome.
Yep. Because if you're doing it through the Instagram app, Apple takes a cut of that, like through the App Store, because you're doing it on the device through an app. So just little tiny things. It's like, I would do it like this, but try
That's
it.
great.
See what
Yeah.
happens. Yeah.
That's super helpful. Yeah. Thanks, man. I appreciate that.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, like you said, you're in a pretty big market. There's a lot of bigger competitors there. So, I mean, a lot of the people that I've talked to that are doing at least, a million plus and are aggressively trying to grow, they spend like 10% or more of their top line on advertising. So it's impressive that you guys have been able to still continue to scale, but in a market where there's bigger companies that have very deep pockets, like it sounds like a lot of that is just organically, which is probably a testament to the core values and the service delivery, customer experience kind of thing. So
Yeah, I appreciate
that's good, man. That's what's up.
I actually heard what you had just said, the 10% thing, a couple days ago. I was listening to another podcast. I don't remember what it was. And they had said that, yeah, you should be spending like 10% of your top line. And I went, oh no. Like, holy crap, dude. Like we're way under. But I guess, like you said, I guess that's a good thing. It, gives us some longevity. I would be really interested to try that though. One of these days is just pull 10% and just do it for 1 month and see what happens.
If you
Um,
have the CSR and like call management team set up, like try it.
yeah, I mean, we do. We're structured to grow. I mean, we've got it all in line.
I would anticipate that there's going to be more volume as a result of that spend, right? So I would make sure that that piece is set up to handle it. Like plan for the best case scenario. That way, if it happens, like you actually capitalize off of that. I wouldn't say like go from spending 1% to 10% with like not enough people to like you need to have a sales team, like to be clear,
Right.
people that the goal is to spend $1,000 and make 2, 3, 10, whatever. So you need to have the structure in place to capitalize on that. But, if you've got that and you're confident in their ability to like convert and close as many of those and you could handle more volume, you should try it just for a month. Do it during a slightly busier season.
The hardest part would be like our guys have full schedules all week. So we probably need to get another truck going so that we have some empty space to put it. Especially if we went 1 to 10, dude, holy smokes, man, we'd have to do like 2 extra trucks.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe I'll try it. That'd be kind of fun.
Yeah. And just remember that you got to bake that into your pricing now.
I know.
That's the biggest thing that always is like a conversation that I have to have. Like we provide these services for clients, right? So we charge X amount. And then a lot of times it's, hey, here's our retainer fee. Here's what you're going to spend on the platform. So if it's, ad spend budget for Google or Facebook or whatever. And it's like, okay, now you have 2 more numbers that you need to plug into your overhead calculator. And maybe you need to adjust some of your pricing. Or if we run that for a month, 2 months, 3 months, and now we know what it costs us to A, acquire a lead, and B, acquire a customer through a paid ad channel, right? Organic, it's like word of mouth, it's all free. Like it doesn't cost you anything. Maybe you can set up a referral system with incentives and like you give people a gift card or whatever, something like that. We have some stuff that we deploy in businesses that we work with for that too, where it's like, how do we take word of mouth and just like turn it up a notch so that it happens faster? There's things you can do for that, right? But for the paid ad channels where it's like we're putting money in and we need to know how much money we're getting out, if you have your cost per lead or your CAC, your cost to acquire a customer, you now know what it's going to take to scale from 1 million to 2. You're like, hey, if we know that our average ticket price is X and it costs me this much to buy a customer, right? How many customers do I need to buy at an average ticket price of this with a margin of this to go from 1 million to 2?
Oh yeah.
And then it's like,
Yeah.
okay, sweet. So I need to spend 250 grand if I want to do an extra million this year because I can go out and buy those customers. I can buy that revenue for the business. So it's like, as soon as you know those numbers, it's like, okay, sweet. Another thing that you can do, it's called customer financed acquisition. If it costs me $100 for a customer, right? So I spent $10 is my cost per lead. Our close rate is 10%. So I spend $10 for a lead. I close one out of those 10 leads, and then that customer basically cost me $100. If that customer cost me $100, and in our pricing, we charge them $200 as our marketing expense, right? Our overhead for marketing. They have paid for themselves and the next customer. Do you see how that creates the flywheel?
Yeah. Yeah.
They paid for your advertising cost for you to acquire them, and they paid for you to go out and buy the next customer as well. So if you can effectively do that with your pricing, there's a crazy flywheel there where it allows you to actually scale your ad campaigns very quickly.
That's
So
awesome.
if you can bake those numbers in and you know what they are, it's like, okay, sweet. Like we can spend money confidently knowing that we're still making it back and then some. So
Right. Right.
things that are hard to know going into it, but it's like, hey dude, here's the spreadsheet. This is what we need. Here's the levers to pull to make this work out long term for everyone involved. So those are typically some things that we look at as well.
I love it. You're knowledgeable, man. That's great.
Appreciate it.
That's awesome.
This is the everyday ordeal. So I would hope that I'm getting decent at it at this point.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's awesome.
on it on now. Cool. Any things you want to round off with, like a final closing point? Like, if there's any other business owners that are watching this right now, you're like, hey, this is the one thing that I would say to you guys to like, just leave you with some words of wisdom, or here's my biggest mistake, maybe, or like, here's one thing to
Yeah.
avoid.
Yeah. No, I love that. Man, I don't know. I think I would just leave it. I would just leave it with be aggressive about your integrity and your intentionality. Like if there's it makes no sense to go make $1 million and not sleep at night by the way you did it. Right. I would much rather make nothing, if not lose money, but be able to go home to my wife and my kids at night and sleep well on my pillow than know that I damaged my own integrity, and there's a saying by maybe this is the thing that I'll say. Maybe this is like the nice little thing. Winston Churchill has a quote that says, at some point it's something like this. At some point in every man's life, he's going to stumble over the truth. The problem is that most men just stand up and walk off and act like nothing ever happened. Your decision then is, are you going to look at the truth, look at your integrity, look at the things that you need to look at, and become a better man for your family, your wife, your business, the people that you're taking care of, your employees, your clients? Or are you going to stand up and act like nothing ever happened and effectively like lose your soul in that process, right? Like there's a verse in the Bible that basically says like, what good is it for a man to gain the whole world but lose his soul? Like holy smokes, that's intense. And so like, what good is it for you to operate inside of your business, but at the end of the day, like, it has no heart, it has no soul in it. Like, it matters, and the leader matters. Like, if the leadership leans downwards, if that leader is not being full of integrity or being honest or doing things the right way, or he's living a double life or whatever, everything's going to bleed down, and it comes right through the bottom of the shoes of the business. It goes from the top all the way down through the shoes. It has to be proper at the top and bleed down. So I don't know.
I forgot there's one more thing I got to do. So in the last episode, I'm trying to keep this going because it's just a fun little thing. I stole it from another podcast, but basically the last guest that was on, I was like, what's a question you want me to ask for the next person? And basically he said, like, what are the things that you're doing to break through the current revenue range that you're at to get to the one that you want to?
I love that. I have three things off the top of my head. One, giving coffee bags to customers. We were trying to create adding value and making it so that way people remember us, even after we leave, that they're going to tell their friends, whatever. Number two is opening the third location, being really intentional about that, trying to gain access to an entirely separate area of town that we don't really have access to based off of Google. So making those leaps and bounds. And then the third one is getting our average ticket price higher. So the way that we did that is, I'm not raising my hourly rate. What we did is we actually added a $50 buffer to the back end of every single quote. So when they put it into their calculator, at the very end, it throws an extra $50 into the bottom of it. And the whole idea is we're just driving that ticket number up, so that way we get used to the number, and then eventually we'll look at that average ticket price and then do it again. And just, obviously there's not infinite amount of room you can move on that, but that does really help us get a little farther, because $50 multiplied by 100 calls in a week, multiplied by whatever, it goes quick. You get a lot more money involved. So yeah.
Perfect. That's awesome, dude. Very, very tactical. Like, this is it. Answer. Love it. I hate to keep dragging it on, but it popped in my brain. Do you guys do like subscriptions or like maintenance plans or like any sort of recurring revenue aspect of?
Yes, sir. Let me tell you about our gold membership program. You save 15% with no cap on pretty much anything that we provide. And we also will maintain your water heater completely free once a year and provide you with the sewer inspection at no additional cost. It's $294 a year. We jokingly refer to it as the Amazon Prime of plumbing, which is a great sales point. We used to do monthly, but now we actually just do only annual because it's less complicated and we can move them faster.
Like billing it one time a year?
Yep.
Instead of
Yeah. You pay for it in the front, and it's a use it or lose it kind of thing if you want to take advantage of the 15%. Otherwise, we only do 10% up to $100. So you can see how quickly you could save money if you just become a gold member. And the idea there is just simply to add a ton of value for a low cost. Again, to create return customers because we care for people, yada, 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 So yeah.
Love it.
And it's got, if you look, it's a seamless, see that? Oh, just the way it opens up, it kind of just transitions. Anyway.
Masterpiece. The graphic designer was thinking ahead.
Thank you. That's me.
Hey,
I was so intentional. I sat there and was like, digital to make sure it lined up properly.
Love it. It's detail is a detail that matters, dude.
It is.
It absolutely is. Yeah. So I guess on that note, what would be a question that you'd want me to ask the next person that we have on? Assuming that they're probably an owner operator similar to yourself.
Yeah.
And it can be anything, business, personal, life, just any question. We don't want to really put guardrails on it. So anything you're curious about.
Okay, I'm gonna go with the integrity thing here. This will be kind of it's gonna make your guys squirm, I think. But if you were to evaluate your business and your leadership in a really honest fashion, what areas in your business and your leadership do you need to make integrity a priority? And what are you going to do about it?
Right on.
Homeboy's going to squirm.
That'll be a fun one.
Yeah. Like, oh, jeez, dude.
Yeah. It's like, damn, we talked for an hour and a half. And you're going to pop that on me at the end. It's like, yeah, dude.
Yeah, I'm gaining trust with you. Go for it. Bring it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Right on, man.
it's a leadership question, you know, and I think it needs to be asked. Patrick Lencioni just released a book. I don't know if I have it in here. I'll show it to you. Oh, it's right here. Um, it's called The Motive. It's a leadership book. It's really about your why, but also like CEOs and really like how to functionally do it. Phenomenal book. It's a lot of storytelling. He tells a story for the first like 3/4 of the book. So it's very like narrative. And then at the very end of the book, he actually gives really solid principles. I just finished it and it's absolutely phenomenal. So maybe one to, depending on what his answer is, this would be a good one to throw his way. He or she could be either one. Yeah.
Cool. Steven, where can people find you at? Anything that you mention or want people to know about, we'll put links in the description of the video when this
Yes.
is launched on YouTube. I know you said you had a book and stuff coming too, which is awesome. I don't know. You said August for that?
It'll be like, yeah, it'll be sometime in August. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Maybe,
I just
maybe
signed.
link up and do something again once it's out. But in the meantime, if there's like a pre-order something, the coffee, tell people where they can find your stuff, dude.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, you could, we'll start with Jobe Sons. Like, you can find that all over Jobe Sons Plumbing LLC, you know, at whatever, or just .com, jobesonsplumbing.com. You can also, for the coffee, it's Plumbers Crack Coffee, multiple plumbers, PLUMBERSCA, or whatever, you know, Plumbers Crack. You can spell it. Plumberscrackcoffee.com. Do not do plumberscrack.com. Plumberscrackcoffee.com.
Yeah.
I can't urge that one enough. That's also on Instagram. So at Plumbers Crack Coffee, I believe it's LLC. No, it's Plumbers Crack Coffee Co. At Plumbers Crack Coffee Co. And then if someone on here who's listening is looking for consulting and stuff, you can also do tradehouseconsulting.com. But like ease into that one because I'm not like fully ready to go. I'm just like more just playing with the idea. So the business or the book, it's called Burning Coals Business. That will be released pretty much everywhere middle of August. I believe the website assigned to it is going to be burningcoalsbusiness.com, just to keep it nice and simple. That way there's no confusion. And then there will also be a link to that book through Trade House Consulting. So that way it's just a little easier to find because I know that I've got 7 billion websites at this point. So as far as me personally, I don't really do Instagram or Facebook on my personal side. I mean, I do have a Facebook, but I don't really post very much or anything. And I don't check my messages ever. So, yeah.
Cool. Right on. We'll make sure that we get all that stuff linked down below. And Steven, thank you for your time, man. It was a pleasure having you on. Appreciate it.
You too, Mr. Jobe. Have a great one.
You too, man. Ciao.
Bye.